Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first of all, good morning to all of you. As I earlier mentioned, we are going to okay. As I earlier mentioned, you we are going to uh, start our expert talk regarding the DevOps and SaaS. Today we have for that Mr. Tejas Patel, sir. Basically, uh, he is working as a senior software engineer in Dev Digital, and he has proficient in software development with around 10 plus years of progressive experience in requirement gathering analysis, client communication, design development, documentation, and cloud technology of enterprise application using with .NET Core, ASP.NET MVC, C Sharp ASP.NET, Web API 2, .NET Functions, Node.js, and React.js with the deployment on cloud service like AWS and Azure. So, on behalf of Devang Patel Institute of Research and Charusat University, we are welcome you, sir. Please guide us for the DevOps and SaaS. So stage is yours, sir. Please guide us.
Okay. Thank you, Bridges. Thank you very much for the brief introduction. Hello, guys. So, first of all, tell me, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So, we'll be going ahead with the SaaS and Azure DevOps topics. Okay. So, before that, uh, and I will be also sharing my screen and we'll be doing practical session on that. Okay. So, let me just share my screen first of all. So, we'll have much more idea on that. Tell me once you see my screen. Oops. So, you guys able to see my screen?
No.
No? Just a minute. Okay. So now, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So, we'll be going ahead with the practical session as well for the DevOps part. Okay. In between, at any time, if you have any question, then you can raise your hands. Okay. With the reaction over here. That is raise your hand. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, uh, I just want to know some few things with you guys. That are you aware of any development programming language? Are you people aware of
Yes.
which generally which language do you have you learned or you practice in general? Python? Or
Sir, Java,
is it your subject? Sorry,
JavaScript and Python.
JavaScript and Python. Fine, that's fine. Okay, so let me go. Let us start with the DevOps and the exact concept of DevOps and why exactly the DevOps is required in current organization. Okay, and what are the evaluation part and how it is increasing efficiency, how DevOps is increasing efficiency in the current scenario, in the current organization, or say, uh, which helps organization to build a fast, reliable software. Okay, so I'll give you real scenario and real practical examination. So first of all, before starting this slide, Bridges might have passed on you some information regarding the downloads of this software that you must that you guys required in order to do the practical session that we are going to do in the second part, in the second slide of this lecture. So have you guys downloaded Git from this source?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Visual Studio Code from this source.
Yes, we have.
You can, yeah. If not, if anybody of you have not done that, please go and download. I mean, these three options. That is Git SCM, Code Visual Studio, and Python. Okay. So when we'll be going to the practical session, it will help us, uh, and it will make things easier for you to understand things. Because just giving theory lectures will not going to help you out on the DevOps part because it's a huge topic and there are many tools. So those who have not downloaded those software, please go and download it. Bridges might have given you the instruction on how to download. And also one other thing that I need to ask you guys that have you create your account? I mean student account with the Azure.
Yes.
So you have your credentials, that is your you have your I mean email ID and the password that you remember, which will be helping us to develop uh, the further projects and organization that we are going to do with the cloud, Azure cloud. So you guys have that. If anyone don't have that, please do it now. Okay, so that will help in our practical session. Fine. So I'm starting with we have divided. I have divided this course into two parts. That is in Azure DevOps SaaS Part 1 and Azure DevOps SaaS Practical Part 2. So first of all, we'll be going ahead with the Part 1 of the Azure DevOps. Okay. So please raise your hands whenever you have any sort of questions. Okay. Now, so first of all, DevOps. What exactly that means? You can see it is already divided into two parts. That is Dev and Ops. Okay, Dev and Ops. Just remember this: Dev and Ops. So Dev exactly means the development part, and Ops means the operation part. So if I want to give a simple definition of DevOps, then I can see that it is I can say that it is a combination of people, process, and product to bring a better efficiency software to the world. Okay, so why DevOps and why we have why the traditional approach is going down now. I mean, it is why the traditional approach is not being used in the current scenario software. So let me give you some practical examination as what we have learned from my 10 years of experience. So initially, when I started my job, actually, the process, I mean, before 10 years, or say in the before 12 years, where I joined my first company, that is Bharti Software Private Limited. I joined as a junior software engineer. Okay, so when we were doing this software development, so what we were doing, we were gathering the client requirement, and after doing the client requirement, we were making the database, and then once the database was made, we go to actually I was in .NET, so I go to Visual Studio. Okay, I started my coding. Fine. Once the coding was done, there was one server which was given by the client. Okay, that hosted the application. So by simply log into that server, I transfer my all the codes, all my local code to the uh, main database. I mean server. So that server, when I configure it with the domain, you need to to do the domain configuration of your server with your static server IP and the domain that you get from GoDaddy. So when I configure that, the site started running. Okay, fine. So that scenario was, I mean, that was my first scenario. I mean, companies were practicing that scenario before 10 or 12 years. Now, what exactly the problem was that? See, initially I was working alone. Okay, so there was no issue. I only maintained the database. I only maintained the site. I mean, the coding part was done by me. The requirement was done by me. I only communicate with the client, and the deployment was also done by me only. Okay, that's fine. So initially there was no issue. There was no problem. Now when the problem starts, when you add the team members and when your product starts to escalate, then the real problem starts. Why the real problem starts? First of all, that first main problem is that now the to my team. Okay, so now the real problem was that suppose I was working in a user model. Say for example, I'm working on a user model. Okay, so now in user model, I might have one file which may contain the code of performing the CRUD operation. That is create, read, update, or delete. Okay. Now the other person, other team member also wants to access that file at the same time. And I also want to access that same file at the same time. How can you do that? Either of either of one of us has to stop working and give the access to that file until and unless he finishes his works, and I have to wait. Or I get the access of the file, then he has to wait. Now that is a total waste of time. There is no meaning in doing such kind of development, because if you are not going to meet your deadline and your client is not going to satisfy with your work, no matter what you do. Okay. So now then we have to introduce uh, SCM. That is, we'll come across this SCM. Don't worry about that. The terms and terminology that currently I will be using might not be familiar with you guys, but don't worry about that. I'll give you complete idea of that. SCM means source control management. So that source control management is done with the help of the GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, and earlier we were using Tortoise SVN. That is a different thing. But after introducing of SCM, what happened was that the same file can be shared between me and my team members, and they both can work independently on that. Okay, you guys get me? With the real practical examination. Or no?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So that was first step toward DevOps. Then the steps also involved in automizing of the along with the development. We we introduced the test plans. Then from the test plans, the automation of deployment that I said you initially. That first of all, what I was doing is that I just put my code to the server directly. I just finished my work and I just put my code directly on the server, and that started running. But it was not that seamless every time. Many times there was the package issues, there was some dependency issues that needs to be resolved on the server. Okay, so that also wasted my time. Okay, so in order to make process automation, that is starting from coding to the deployment, starting from the requirement gathering to the project planning, then doing the coding, then integrating the test plan, and then integrating it to the, deployment it to the production server. That is all of the ops is, and it involves different sets of people. Okay, different sets of by different sets of people, I mean it involves the whole team. As a team, the environment of development team takes place and the operational team takes place. Okay, So starting from the your manager to the developer, the tester, the DevOps team, and the SEO team, all are involved in this process in one way or the other way. Fine. Okay. So I'll go through with this definition. DevOps is a combination of software developer, dev, and operation. That is ops. It is defined as a software engineering methodology which aims to integrate the work of software development and software operation teams by facilitating culture of collaboration and shared responsibility. Okay. So DevOps, the main integral part of this DevOps is CI and CD. Just remember this. That is continuous integration and continuous delivery or continuous deployment. We'll come across this continuous integration on how we do this continuous integration with the help of Azure repos and GitLab in the coming second slide. Okay, we'll also be going ahead with the continuous deployment. How this continuous deployment is done. That is whatever changes you made in your local machine is been reflected to your server without any hurdle. You just have to push your code to the repo, and then the deployment is done by the server itself. And that is all totally automatic. It is done in an automatic way. So all this functionality we're going to see the complete integration of the CI and the CD. We are going to do that. Okay. And as you can see from the image itself. Okay. So first, guys, if you don't understand, then please tell me. In this image, first of all, the planning is the first stage of any software that you do, any software development that you will be involving in the future. The first step is the planning and the requirement gathering. First, you do the requirement gathering from the client, then you do the planning. In the planning phase, you have different types of planning. That is, the team has been involved in the planning phase for the, for calculating the hours that is going to take in order to make this project deliver to the client. Okay. And there are project management software also now available. That is Jira and Jira, yes, Jira and Trello and other softwares are there, which are involved in this planning phase also. That you will learn in your professional life when you go out. Okay. So first of all, planning is done. Then depending on the planning, the code is done. Once the code, once the coder starts the coding, he commit the code and the code is deployed on the server, and then the build is made. Then the testers are involved to test your applications, and once the tester gives the approval, it has been released. Release means releasing from staging server to the production server, and then the deployment is done. Then the operational part is, the site starts running, and then the continuous monitoring is done. Monitoring means what exactly involves in this monitoring. Uh, with the term monitoring is that, see, your work is not over. Once you finish your code, deploy to the server, your work is not going to be over. You have to monitor it. Why you have to monitor it? That is because there might be different types of attacks that might take place on your site. Okay. Or on your software that you have deployed on either on the Android you deploy, or in the iPhone place. Wherever you deploy your software, it might be any kind of software. If you are putting it that software into public, reachable to the world, then it is prone that there are going to be attacks. There are going to be DDoS attacks. There are going to be phishing activities that are going to take place. Uh, Along with that, you also need to monitor the amount of traffic that is coming to your site. Okay, so depending on that traffic, you can take decisions to add more server, to enhance your server team, or the resources that are required to take to handle that much of traffic. So continuous monitoring is also required, but that part for this part there are many softwares that are available in both the Azure and AWS clouds. Okay, so just remember this: plan, code, and after coding, the build has been done. And once the build is done and deployed to the test server, tester test the they test the applications, and then the release is done, deploy on the production server, operation functionality is done, and then the continuous monitoring is done. Fine. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Okay. Now I have also mentioned this why DevOps. So this is my definition. Okay. This is my definition. See, the most common scenario in the development and deployment with the developer is that you will hear this terminology. You will hear this word whenever you go to the professional career, that code runs in my local machine and it don't work on the production server. This is the common terminology that you will hear in your professional life. Sir, it is running in my local, but I don't know why it is not running in the production server. And that will happen with you guys also. Out of 10 things you do, two times this scenario you will be meeting it. That sir, it runs in my local machine, but it didn't work in the production server. Now there are, the code which runs on your local machine, and that does not work on the production server. So the gap between this running in your local machine and to the production server, there are many gaps. There are many gaps. So in order to many gaps in the sense that there might be some package differences. You have installed the packages on in your local machine, but those packages are not available on the production server or on the staging server. Okay, you need to install those packages on that server also. The configuration might be different. Your machine might be with the higher configuration. The server might not have that configuration, or the software that are supported with your configuration are not supported with the configuration on the server. Okay, there might be some files that you have changed, but you have forget to upload it onto the production server. There might be some database changes that you have done in your local machine, but you have not uploaded that database changes on the production server, so the functionality stops working. Okay, there might be many issues, but to overcome this issue, the code runs in my local machine, but it does not work in the production server. To overcome that issue, the concept of DevOps has been introduced, and we'll see this part, that the code which runs in my local machine will run on the production server or on the staging server. That we'll see in the second part, that how this DevOps helps us to uh, integrate the seamless development along with the deployment process. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. You guys have any question? If you have a question, then you can ask, or I will move with the second slide. Have any question? One of you? Any one of you? You can admit it. Okay, so I'm going with the second slide. Just Okay, so let us first understand what exactly the CI/CD means. I have used that term previously in the slide. So with the continuous integration, what exact this is the definition. We are going to see practical examination, so you will be knowing much deeper onto this. Okay, continuous integration is a step in which all code is merged with develop when developer complete code in order to run automated builds and tests. We'll we'll be using GitHub tool for integration in practical. That is in the second slide. We'll be using this GitHub to see how this GitHub help us to do this continuous integration of the code. As I said you earlier, that whenever uh, more than one people starts working on the same file, then to avoid any kind of conflicts, we use the SCM. That is a GitHub. There are many tools available in the market for the integration of the code, and GitHub is the leader in this. Okay, there is GitHub, there is Bitbucket, there is Visual Studio also provides you with the SCM functionality. Okay, and there is GitLab, but GitHub is the master. I mean, it is he is the leader. GitHub is the leader in code integration that provides the core integration of that. Just understand with the code integration is that if more than one person is going to work on the same file or on the other modules, then to integrate that code, because whenever, see, if I am working on one file that is on user file and the other team is working on, say, a product file, so these are all part of an application. First of all, understand that when an application is a combination of different modules. It might have the user module, it might have the employer module, it might have the uh, factory module, or there might be different types of modules that might be available in one application. So one person is not going to work on every module. Different person are going to work on different modules. So whenever they work, those work needs to be combined and merged into one application, and that application must be visible to you guys. Okay, right? Now, in order to merge all the code, we need to do this code integration, that is continuous integration, which is being provided by GitHub. Fine, we'll see practical examination, so you'll have much more idea on that. Now we come to the term continuous delivery. Okay, so what exactly do you mean by continuous delivery? So it reduces the time that are inherited in the deployment. It covers automating every single step for build deployment, such that a safe code release can be done eventually at any time or moment. Generally is used when deploying the code to the production. I'll explain you this. Okay. First of all, just understand that it is a manual process. I have explicitly written over here. It is a manual, continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Don't get confused with it. Continuous delivery, just understand that it is a manual. And continuous deployment is, as I said, is a higher degree of automation in which build deployment occurs automatically whenever any modification is made to the code. Just understand that continuous delivery is a manual and continuous deployment is a total automation. That is, whenever you change your code in your local machine, that code will be deployed on the production server. That is continuous deployment. Now, why this continuous delivery is manual? Okay, see, to deploy the code on the production server, that it will require uh, what we can say. You cannot directly deploy your code to the production server in real scenario. In real, in real software development, the developer is not going to deploy the code on the production server. There are going to be many, restriction that are involved when you deploy the code to the production. why those restrictions are required. Because see, you cannot say on the production server once you do the code deployment, you cannot say that uh, that code runs in my local, but it is not working on my the production server. You cannot say that in the real scenario. Just understand that this, because there are many peoples and many many clients that are involved with the production site. It is directly been it is directly visited by the world, and you do not want your software to have any issues or any breakdown or any slowdown of your software when you're online. So the deployment on the production is done by your product owner or your manager. Now, how he can do. So in that case, there are see, different companies follow different strategy. They follow different method. Strategy in the sense they have a different person who has given that authority to deploy on the production server. So I'll tell you what we are doing. Okay, so you might have some idea of that. See, in our company, when we start the development, okay, so the development work is given by the Scrum Master. Okay, see, first of all, just don't fall into this terminology, Scrum Master and Product Owner, that you will learn when you're going in the professional work. Scrum Master is a type of manager who manages the the requirement from the client, and he divides the work into the developer. That is for the Scrum Master. So the work that has been given to the developer, he will start the coding in his PC, and then once the coding is done, he will push his code. He or she will push their code to the staging server. First of all, the code goes to the staging server. Always on the staging server, a build is made, and the tester are given the email notification that now the code has been deployed to the staging server. You can check the functionality, and you can run your test case or the test plan that you have prepared for the functionality that has been deployed to the staging server. So when the tester starts with the manual and the automation testing plan that he or she has prepared, if he or she finds that the functionality is not working properly, or there are issues with the functionality developed by the developer, then an email notification goes to that developer and to the person involved in that development that this functionality is not working and we are not ready to move this code further. Okay. So again, that code comes back to the developer, and he again starts development, and then he again push the code to the staging server. Then again the notification goes to the tester, and then tester will check it, and then if the functionality is okay, then he will email to the manager that now the functionality has been working properly. Now we can start the deployment from the staging server to the production server. Okay, so now in that case, DevOps teams are also involved, and the manager is also involved. So manager will check after the tester has given the thumb, the green signal, that now this software is working properly. We can move things forward. Then the manager comes into involved, DevOps teams comes into involved, and manager will check all the functionality. DevOps teams will take the DevOps team will see that the infrastructure for deploying to the production is okay or not. And once the manager gives the signal, that is the I already said that different companies have different person to uh, deploy the code on the production server. It can be from the DevOps team, or it can be your manager, that product owner. Different terminology and different department have different work, and different company work with the different person. In our case, in my company, there is one product owner which are in US. They take they take the privilege to deploy the code on the production after checking all the functionality and after the tester the code has been tested properly. Then those product owner they have this. I mean, we have configured our CI/CD pipeline in a way that once all the code has been, I mean, all the functionality has been checked by the product owner, then he will we have given him one button deploy on the production server. So when he clicks on that button, or say when he provides an approval, the DevOps still will upload the code on the production server. So that is why there is one obstacles. We cannot say obstacles, but there is process in continuous delivery that to upload your code to the production server, there is one higher authority that takes the privilege to deploy the code on the production server, because production server, as I said, it is very integral part. And if your site goes down for even 5 or 10 minutes, then the company has to pay the price. Okay, fine. Any question on this, guys?
No, sir.
You're getting me, or I mean,
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir,
we
we
are
are
there,
getting
getting
you.
it.
sorry, who was the girl that was? Any questions, guys?
No question, sir.
Okay. So third slide, I have given you. Sorry,
Sir, your screen is not visible.
my screen is. What's it? Just I'm resharing it. Now you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
So now in the market, there are many dev tools that are available. Okay, I just given one snapshot of the tools that are available in the market. You don't have to remember all those things because we will be learning a very, I mean, the tool which provides all the functionality that has been provided. Hello, does anybody have any question? Hello.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Uh, See, I have just given you in this slide. I have given you all the tools that are available in the market for doing different functionalities. Okay, don't get confused with that. Okay, this is just the tools that I have. I mean, in this slide, which will be useful in the future to you, and it will be good if you have some knowledge that the knowledge in the sense that yes, these tools are used for this purpose. So I'm just going from the upside of this slide. Uh, See, for the application life management, that is managing, that is first phase, which is the first phase in your development, that is application lifecycle management. So there are tools, as I said, Jira, Trello, and Asana are the tools which are actually the Scrum based tools. Okay, I'm not going to discuss all the Scrum tools, and I'm not going to show you the Scrum tools because that will require a whole other lecture for that. That is, a lengthy topic. Okay. So, and the other tool, the other part is SCM or VCS. The SCM, I already told you, source code management tool, which is Git, GitHub, Bitbucket, Gitbucket, GitLab, and there are other tools. This is Tortoise SVN, which is used for managing the code. Okay. For the testing, there are many tools that are available. Cucumber is there, JUnit is there. Okay, Selenium script is also might be there. Okay, so these are all the tools that are used for testing purpose. Right. And yes, another tool that another part that I just forget it. See, communication is the main part, as you all know. Without communication, a proper requirement cannot be gathered, and proper project management cannot be done. So, communication channels are like Slack, Microsoft Team might also involved here. There are many other tools which are available. Okay, so that this is the basic thing. Okay, and testing tools I already make you aware of. The deployment tools that are available, this Octopus deploy is there, Juju is there, Elastic Box is there, and there are various types of other tools. Okay, you don't have to remember all those things because what we are going to do with the Azure DevOps, it will involve all those functionalities. So don't worry about that. I'm just giving the brief of what tools are available in the market and for what purpose. Okay. So for Cloud IS and Cloud Pass, uh, again, there are many tools, which is Docker is available, Amazon Web Services is available for the Cloud IaaS and PaaS. Don't worry, we are going to cover up these topics on what is IaaS and what is PaaS and what is IaaS. Okay, in the next slide. So don't worry about this. There is configuration management provisioning. There is Puppet, Safe, Ansible is also there. Orchestra and scheduling is there. So that which is providing by Kubernetes. So these two topic, configuration management and orchestra and scheduling, these two topics are actually huge, very huge. Okay. Uh, this is also the important part of Azure DevOps. But currently we are not going to cover up this configuration management, provisioning, and orchestra and scheduling. Why we are not going to cover up? Because Azure provides the provisioning and configuration management tools by itself only. So we are not going to discuss this part, okay, and also this part. I'll tell you, uh, I'll explain you if you want that what is orchestration and scheduling and what is configuration management. But currently, it will be not the part of our uh, session, okay. And I also told you about the monitoring. So in the monitoring also there is a different type of tools which are available in the market. See, when you go to work, you might use this tools or you might not use these tools. That depends with the company. With different companies, they use different tools, but there are lots of tools that are available in the market. Okay, artifact management is there. The build management is also there, and the knowledge sharing, which is GitHub pages is there, Confluence is there, and CI tool is also there. The TeamCity, Bamboo, Jenkins, Travis CI, and the build configuration is also there. Grandel, Grunt database management tool is also there. Okay. Now this whole process: collaborate, build, test, deploy, run. Just remember these things: collaborate, build, test, deploy, run. And forget about these tools. All this functionality is being given by Azure DevOps now, and it is leading market in the DevOps now. See here, okay. Azure DevOps has taken some of tools from this part and it provides you seamless DevOps functionality now with the Azure DevOps. We are going to do practical session on that. So I will explain you what exactly it does and why don't you have to remember all those things. It's more easy and more seamless with the Azure DevOps. Okay. Moving forward to the Azure DevOps part that we are going to see in our second practical session. Okay. So as I said, we'll be using Azure DevOps to see on how the CI/CD works in the real scenario using Python code. Below is the image of Azure DevOps CI/CD architecture. I'll explain you the architecture also. Okay. So uh, this is this is you guys. That is, you are the engineer now, or you are going to be feature engineer. Okay. So when you do the coding part with your Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or any tool that you use for uh, developing your application. It can be any application. Okay. If you're an Android developer, you'll be using Android Studio. If you're an iPhone developer, you will be using Mac PC or Mac OS for developing. So in that case, that comes over here, the tool that is being used for development. Okay. Then you once the code has been developed, just remember this: once the code is been developed, you push your code to the repository, repository or say SCM, that is source control management tool, which can be a GitLab, GitHub, or Jira, whatever your company use. Okay, so in a way, you're going to come across this repository uh, terminology in the coming lecture. What is this repository and what actually exactly it does, and what is GitHub and what exactly it does. What is the purpose of that? That you are going to see practically. Okay. So then you have the test plans. That is the tester also write the automation script. They also have the plans to run once you do the deployment of your code. They run the script, that is automation script that they run. So this is also there. This is also involved test plans, and then you configure your pipeline. The configuration of pipeline is done in such a way that whenever the code has been pushed by the user, it goes through these pipelines and this test plans and all that, and the code is automatically deployed to the Azure web app. Okay, from just one code, one command type from the user machine to the automation of this deployment. Deployment is done in the Azure DevOps, and then you have this application inside, which is used for monitoring. Okay, so what we are going to cover is that we are going to do the code in our local machine. We are going to deploy, the code will be done in our case with the Visual Studio Code. The code will be deployed on the Azure DevOps. We are not going to currently run the test plans because we don't have test plans. So we will eliminate it. Okay. Once the code is deployed to the Azure repos, we'll configure the Azure pipeline. We'll deploy the code to the web app. Okay. And then we'll see our site in the browser. Also, we are not going to cover this Azure bots because Azure bots is related to the management of the uh, project. And as I said, managing for managing the project, there are many methodology used, that is waterfall and Scrum methodology, Kanban methodology, Lean methodology, which will take another lecture to explain you that. So we are not going to explain it. I will show you one real scenario uh, on how the project management takes place. But I think that is associated with my company. So if I get time, then I will show you. Okay. Whatever I have explained you here is written over here. So this is a data flow through the scenario as well. The developer changes the application source code. From here, application code, including the file, is committed to the source code repository in Azure repos. Continuous integration triggered application build and unit tests using Azure test plans. This one. Continuous deployment, the Azure pipeline triggers on automated deployment on application artifact with environment specific configuration values. We'll see these environment configuration specific values and how these triggers take place. Sorry. In the practical session, we are going to see this. We are not going to see this test plan. Okay. And then the artifacts are deployed to Azure. Web app. We are going to see this web app. Application insight. We are going. I'm not. We are not going to see it because that requires some payment. So for you guys, application insight will not configure it currently. Or if it is available in the free tier, then I'll show you. Then the monitoring takes place. That is, developer monitor and manage health, performance, and usage information, which has been provided by the application Azure Application Insights. And the backlog information is used to prioritize new features and bug fixes using Azure Bots. So this Azure Bots is totally project management tool, which is available. Okay, and this is also part of DevOps, but we are not going to cover up this bot, what exactly this bot is and how it works. That I'm not going to cover up. But the practical session will cover up from starting from coding with your local to deploying it to the server. Okay, that in the second second slide when we'll be starting it, we'll be doing it. Right? And yeah, now coming to this understanding of infrastructure as a service, PaaS service, and SaaS services which are available in the cloud. Okay, so guys, you have any question? I think you don't have any questions, right? So that is fine now. You know very well the DevOps functionality. You don't have any questions? What should I consider? You understood that? Okay, fine. If you have a question, then ask me. I also understand that because everything is not going to be understood by you guys until and unless you do a practical. Okay. So in cloud, you might you might have hear about the cloud competition and the cloud services, and you might have also one picture in your mind, or you might have read on what the cloud services are. Are you guys aware of cloud services and cloud tools? Any of you? See, practical. I don't want. Professional. You have experience or not? But are you aware of this cloud services? Any of you? You know what type of cloud providers are there in the market?
AWS.
So what are those? Who are those?
Azure.
Azure. Okay. Fine. Thank you. See, there are there are many providers in the market who provide the cloud services. Okay. AWS is the leader in that. Okay. Now, Azure is the second leader. Google Cloud, GCP, is the third leader. IBM is
Zoho.
also there, which is, sorry.
Zoho.
Uh,
ZHO.
Actually, Zoho is a project management tool. I cannot call it as a cloud provider.
DigitalOcean.
DigitalOcean is there. Yes, very good. So those are all the cloud provider. Now, what exactly do you mean by cloud provider? So let me just explain you. Uh, so before cloud computing or the cloud provider exist in the market, what exactly? I mean, how the server was managed and where it was managed. So in the 90s, I mean, in the 90s or say in the 21st century, that is up to 2001 or 2, 3, 4, up to 2004, the companies used to manage their infrastructure in their premises. So whatever the production server was there, whatever the database server was required, whatever the hardware and the software that are required for your application or your site, they manage those hardware and those uh, and software required into their premises. Okay, so now uh, managing those hardwares and software in the premises, uh, there was a separate room in which they have many racks, and there were many servers. There was a separate room only, and it requires a specific environment. That is, it requires a specific temperature. It needs to be uh, done in the cool place, and every now and then you require an hardware update. There are new hardwares that are coming in the market. You require to update those hardwares. You require a specific person to manage all those resources. I mean, hardwares, those servers, and the update of the softwares you require that. Okay, so that continuous uh, monitoring. I mean, continuous monitoring and continuous what we can say maintenance cost was coming to the company. And plus, as I said you that in the IT business, when you do see this coding functionality and you deploy your application, you deploy to your on-premises server, and that on-premises server was visible to the whole world. So there was a static IP that needs to be configured. There was a VPN, virtual private network that you needs to be configured in your organization in order to make sure that the uh, you are not prone to attack. So again, you have to involve those securities. You have to configure those securities. So there was lots of there was an I cannot say the overhead because at that time anyone don't have that idea of cloud computing. So company was managing their servers in their premises with all those with all the challenges and all the obstacles. Also the cost of managing those uh, servers was also high. Okay, so now when the cloud uh, computing or cloud services was introduced by Amazon, or say before also there was OVH and there was DigitalOcean, there were players. Okay, but AWS make it a large. How it make it large? And then the Azure comes up, and they also make up large. So when the cloud computing comes up in the market, what they provide was that they provide their server. See, basically in the cloud computing, uh, you don't get that into the mind that with the cloud computing, everything is in the cloud. That is cloud that we are seeing in the sky. That it is not like that. Okay. Basically, cloud computing, what it means is that the company like AWS and Azure or say Microsoft, they have their big chunks of or space of servers. It can be 1 to 2 kilometers long. That much big space that they have, and there they have the servers, and that server they give to the world on the renting. You can say that when you use the service of the cloud, then you are tenanting, right? for your usage. Okay, and you are providing money to that provider for renting their software. I mean their hardware and software. So that is what cloud computing is. Fine. You understand the terminology first of all. First of all, understand this cloud computing terminology. You are actually renting the resources of for the company that sorry the cloud computing provider for deploying your website or deploying your code or putting your applications or putting your database for managing your database or for using the services provided by the cloud computers or the cloud providers. This is basically a renting of a server. Okay. Now there are three different types of services that are provided by the cloud providers. That is infrastructure as a services, PaaS, which is called IaaS, PaaS, PaaS, that is platform as a services, and third one is a SaaS, which is software as a services. Now, what do you exactly mean by infrastructure as a services? And what do you mean by platform as a services? And what do you mean by software as a services? So first of all, I'll explain you what exactly do you mean by infrastructure as a services. Okay, fine. You guys have any idea on what do you mean by infrastructure as a services? Any one of you? Yes or no? Hello?
No, sir.
I can say only one or two guys are answering to the question. Other guys, they are just listening or they are, I mean, okay, that's fine. Guys, I know this will be an, these are, might be a new topics and new, I mean, vocabulary of words that might be, that you guys might be coming up. Okay, but don't worry about this. We are going to do practical session and you're going to know how the real scenario with the with the professional life works. Okay, we are going to see a part of it, not the whole part, but you will understand that what exactly Azure DevOps helps us. So don't worry about that. But in the second slide, I need a full sorry, I need a full concentration of yours and full collaboration with you guys. Without that, I'll be doing that all the practical session by myself only with you and me. We'll be doing it, but I'll be fast. You will be slow. So in that case, just tell me that sir, stop here. My service is going to is taking time and it is taking time at my end. So let me configure that. In the second part, please answer to my questions. Otherwise, you will be lagging behind. I'll be going ahead. Okay, no problem. Let us just understand what infrastructure as a service means. Just a minute. As I mentioned earlier, that company was managing the servers on their premises. I just tell you before. Okay. So now, suppose uh, when you're doing, see, suppose currently you're learning Python and you're learning the uh, JavaScript and other programming language. Okay. So now with different programming language, uh, you require a specific tools in your local machine, and also the operating system config is required in your local machine. Okay. Now, when I talk about JavaScript, or say any JavaScript that is currently you are learning just JavaScript, but there are JavaScript frameworks that is uh, Angular is there, React is there, Vue.js is there. All those JavaScript runs very well on the Linux server. Okay, and uh, the .NET, I mean, sorry, the .NET technology, also the .NET software that is the C Sharp .NET, VB.NET, .NET Core. All the software runs very well on the Microsoft. So that is again, so the different software requires different operating system. Okay, so when in your in an organization, when a company works on different platform that is JavaScript, jQuery, PHP, .NET, and also with the iOS and Android, and other technology, so they require a specific server to deploy their code. Okay. Now, as I said earlier, the server was managed on their premises only. Now, you might have questioned that, sir, why we require server if we can run our code locally? Okay. See, running the code locally is not going to make your code public. Public in the sense that you are not going to, I mean, whenever you run your code, it is not going to be watched by the world. Watched by the world in the sense is that you are not actually deploying the code on the actual URL. Suppose google.com. Google is every day evolving and it is every day changing. This is the case with all the major sites, that is facebook.com, go with the Instagram, google.com, microsoft.com, those are the amazon.com. So they all are changing each and every day. They are uploading the code on the specific time or in a specific day or every day. There might be a process over there, but you are not seeing any, I mean, downtime or any, I mean, what performance issue is not there. Why? Because there are servers for that, which are meant for only deployment. So coming back to my topic, that whenever you do the coding and you run the code, that code is not visible to the public because you are running with the local host. Okay. So now, why you require server? Server is required to make your code visible to public. Now, how can your server code is visible to public? Because there is a static IP associated with the server. And see, whenever you type anything, google.com, facebook.com, so that those are the CNAMEs. Behind that is the virtual IP or a static IP associated to that particular domain, which is, so whenever you do the request, it will go to that particular static IP and it will grab a page, I mean, a page, or it will take the resources from that server and will display to your browser. There is always a static IP associated with each and every domain. Just remember this. The domain that you are seeing, google.com, facebook.com, is a CNAME domain, which is a human readable form. But behind that is a static IP associated to each domain. Okay, get your point? You're getting my point? So, with the term infrastructure as a service, is that this cloud provider will provide you a server. Now, when they provide a server, they will ask you what type of server you want. Is it a Linux or a Microsoft, Ubuntu, or what type of server? So you can say, sir, I want. You can select that I want Windows or I want Linux server. So that's this cloud provider will provide you a complete server. You don't have to then you don't have to manage your on-premises server because your server, you've taken the server from the Azure or maybe AWS. So that server is been provided by the cloud provider. Now, when they provide the server, they also provide the operating system. Okay, they also provide the default configuration that has that needs to come up with that operating system. Okay, so currently when you buy a laptop, it has an operating system. Okay, now you are not owning that operating system, but who owns that operating system? If you buy a Microsoft, I mean, Microsoft operating system, then Microsoft is providing that operating system to your laptop. If you buy an Apple laptop or Apple computer, then Apple company is providing that operating system. You are not providing, I mean, you are not configuring operating system. Okay, so in our scenario, that is an infrastructure as a service, the cloud computer provides the complete server to the organization, and he takes a monthly charges for providing you the service of a server. So when they provide any what we can say, any software or any server, then that server that is called infrastructure as a services. I have written, for example, Azure VM. VM is a virtual machine, and Amazon EC2. It is elastic cache. For example, Azure VMs and Amazon EC2 means server only. Okay, a server with a predefined operating system and with a static IP. So you can deploy your code to that server. Fine. Understood what I mean by infrastructure as a service? Okay. We are going ahead with the platform as a services. So PaaS. So what exactly do you mean by PaaS? Uh, Now, how can I explain you? See, in the practical session, we are going to see this web apps. Okay. So web app is a part of a platform as a services. Okay. Now, in earlier, I have said you that a cloud provider provides you a virtual machine, virtual or the server. Let's put it to the server. When they provide a server, they gives you complete detail of the servers, that where it is hosted, what operating system that you have selected. It is already been downloaded, and you are able, that operating system is available to you once you log into the server. Okay, so and you can physically go to that server. You can put files, and you can do whatever things you are doing on your laptop with the server, but it is visible to you. Okay, but in platform as a services, you don't have access to that server. You don't have physical access to that server. You only have, uh, you only have one desktop label or something like this. Okay, and you just deploy that code over that. So that is called web app. They are giving customer. So that is called platform as a service. You are going to see web app in which you do not have access to the operating system or the underlying software that is being used by that server. But you can deploy your code, and you can use for uploading the files to that web app. So they are providing a platform to you, but you don't have the access to the operating system or the underlying software to that services. You're going to come up with that. Okay, don't worry about that. See, now with the term infrastructure as a services. Okay, if you want some practical scenario, and then look at it. So this is my remote desktop application. The server that I have taken, it comes up with the predefined IP. Okay, Now this is an example of infrastructure as a code services. Just a minute. So this remote desktop connection, you can connect. This is an AWS server that I have taken for deploying my .NET application. So it comes with the static IP, and you can connect from your sorry, connect it directly from your computer to that server. This is my company's server, so I'm not going to show you in detail, but I'm just giving you idea that when you take the service infrastructure as a service. Sorry guys, I think my PC just. Yes, sorry. So I have this static IP, and I can connect to those to that server with my local machine, and I can see the operating system, and I can see all of my codes on that server. Okay, so this is an infrastructure as a service that has been provided by the AWS and the Azure. And platform as a service, we are going to see in the second part, that is web app, which we don't have access to the operating system. Access means you cannot have access physically. By physically, that I mean that, see, when I go to this server, okay, 525252, I can have access physically. That is, I can go to this server, I can upload those code, and I know the operating system. But with the web app, you don't have access to uh, like we have in the as services. But they provide as a services. Behind the scenes, this is again a virtual machine only or the server only that acts, but you are not able to see the actual operating. You are not physically going to that server, and you are seeing that server. We'll come across this past services in the second part of it, the practical session, so you'll understand that service very properly. And
Sir,
the
can you
third part is
restart the
software as a
screen?
services. Now see, sorry,
Screen is not visible. Sir. Can you reset?
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Tell me once my screen is visible to you guys.
Yes, sir.
Visible?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we're coming to the third part. Yeah, fine. Thank you. Coming to the third part, that is software as a services. Okay. Now you all guys might have used these services. That is software as a services. Okay. Are you guys aware of Google Docs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Microsoft 365. You
Yes, sir.
might be using this. So what are those? These are all software provided by the third party for using it in your machine. So this is called software as a service. Okay. So again, I've written this definition. When you launch a VM on Azure, you are not buying the operating system. You are basically renting it for the time you will be running that instance. So what exactly do you mean? That when I brought this server from either Azure or AWS, I am basically renting that server. I'm paying monthly to that provider, that to the Azure or AWS server. Okay, so I'm just paying for the server. What about the operating software, that is the operating system and other software that comes up with that server? That does not belong to me. It belongs to that particular company. By Linux server, then I'll be having Ubuntu or Linux operating system, but that is not owned by me. That is owned by that company, but they are providing as a configuration with that server. Okay, or to understand the real scenario, you use the Google Docs, you use Microsoft 365, you use Google Drive. So those are all software as a services that has been provided by the company to you. You don't own that, but as a software you can use it for meeting for in order to meet the different purposes of your work. With Google Docs, you can play with the, PPT. You can make a Excel sheet, but those are also in software. Excel sheet, Microsoft Document, uh, and PowerPoint. Those are software actually. If you understand that, this is all software. It is been provided by that Google to you as a free. So that is called software as a service. Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay, fine. So now I'm going to end this first part over here. And as I said you guys now might have downloaded, uh, just a minute. Have you, all of you downloaded the GitHub? The software that we are going to see in our practical session. Have you guys downloaded these things? All of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. And you have the subscription ID with you with the Azure portal. Do you remember that? Just remember that we'll be doing it. Okay. I know that in first slide you might have many questions, but you're not asking me. No problem. In the second slide or in the second phase, we are going to see it practically, so you will have much more idea. Don't worry about that. Just be aligned or be parallel with me when we do the practical session. And in between, if you have any problem, then tell me. I'll stop there and I'll wait for I mean, uh, uh, your machine to be worked properly, and then we'll go ahead. But just stay concentrated and be in parallel with me. Okay. So in the second part, what exactly we are going to do is that we are going to build and deploy Python web app to Azure cloud provider. Okay. So what we'll be doing here, we'll be doing some local machine setup. Okay. We'll be using Git as an SCM, that is source code management tool. We'll be using it. Use Git to clone a repository. We'll be cloning repository from GitHub, and we'll be setting up Azure web app. Again, what type of services is Azure web app? I already explained you. Any one of you? What exactly type of Azure web app? Is it AS? Is it PaaS? Or is it SaaS?
Sir, it can be SAS. SAS.
No, no, pass. Because we are not able to see the operating system, so it is a pass. No problem. We'll be saying it. No problem. And we'll be setting up Azure DevOps and Azure DevOps project. We'll be using Azure DevOps for deploying our local code to the products. I mean to the web app. Okay. We'll update the code locally, publish the local repository to Azure DevOps, and we'll create a pipeline to build and deploy Python web app to Azure. So we'll be saying that your local code goes to the, we consider this Azure web app as a production server. So once you update your code in the local and then you push your code, that code will automatically be deployed on the server and it will be visible to the public. So we are going to do this. Okay, guys. Now, before I start, those who have not downloaded this software or not configured this software into their local machine and also don't have the access to the Azure portal, please sign up. See, with the student, there are many benefits. You can get a free version of GitHub. Just go, just write down in the Google, and you can explore many things. You have many benefit. You'll get the whole lot of kit also. GitHub for student. There are many free things available for you guys. You can take advantage of this because then you will not have this free access to you. There are many benefits. Student pack is there. The GitHub campus expert. You can take of this advantage of this. And there's a hackathon. You can enhance your knowledge over here also. You can also upload your code in the GitHub and make it visible to public. There are many benefits over here. Personally, what I think is that you always you go through it once whenever you get time. Okay, this is going to help you a lot. You just try to explore this function, this GitHub students. You get many free things. Okay, I'm just pasting it in our uh, that's it, not common. Our meeting, I'm just pasting it. Okay, you explore these things. There are many benefits. Also, you will get many benefits in the Azure cloud. When you have the student subscription, there are many services that comes free to you. So you can enhance your knowledge with that also. Also in AWS, I don't know about AWS, but AWS might also provide you the uh, free student subscription. So you can also use that AWS student. Yeah, there are services which will be, no, I don't think. Anyways, AWS don't provide. It is not viable also, but AWS provide you 1 year of free subscription. Okay, so you can also do that. You can play around it. No problem in doing that. So before starting anything, I'm giving you 10-15 minutes to be just ready and stretch your legs. Because once we start the practical session, we are not going to stop in between. Okay? Let's join after 15 minutes again. I know you might get bored. So within 50 minutes, we are going to rejoin again and we are going to see the practical session. And those, please be ready. If you have not downloaded all these things, please be ready because we'll be moving somewhat faster in this part. Okay. 15 minutes of hold and then we'll be proceeding again. Okay. I think everybody has. Okay or not?
Yes, sir.
Just give me.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So I'll catch you in 15 minutes again. Just be ready with the source code. I mean, GitHub, VS Code, uh, the Python, you might have already downloaded it, and the Azure subscription. Get ready with these four things. We are going to move ahead. Okay. I'll meet you 11:24 is the. So we'll catch again in 11:40. At 11:40, I'll be back. Okay, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'll ping the message in this chat. So once I'm online, okay.
Yes, sir.
So again, we can join. Just get ready, guys, so we can move forward. Thanks for your time. I'm just muting myself for the time being. Thank you.